Greetings, my fellow intellectuals and bookworms. It's time for another book review. But first, I want to give you an update and story time with Sean. If you don't get where that's from, it's a reference to this channel I like to watch, Gray Still Plays. It's a gaming channel. You can check it out if you want. I'm not sponsored, by the way. Just something I like listening to while I work on homework. I haven't been giving you videos for a while because I've been feeling really depressed. Didn't know this, I have depression. If you may have noticed that I got a haircut. I did that because I finally got a second date. Let's just say that I had a girl I went out from high school. It's been a year and a half. Well, a while. I finally asked her out. I was going to do it earlier, but I kind of forgot and got busy. So I asked her out. She said yes. She had a great time. A month and a half later, didn't hear anything from her. Turns out she was busy, and now I got something going again. So I got my hair cut. Before you ask why I didn't get my beard cut off, I like my fucking beard. First of all, it makes me feel like a man, makes me feel strong, and I've noticed for some odd reason that people are more likely to help you with it. Like, without it, I would drop shit that I was carrying because I had to carry too much shit. No one would even stop. But for some odd reason, when I dropped some food the other day, someone helped me. My guess is the beard symbolizes masculinity or something, and it's some sort of tribal thing, meaning that I'm seen as a better mate, so people are more likely to help. Because it was a woman who helped, you can put that together. Anywho, there's that. Also, my fucking phone is low on space. I'm down to less than 1.5 gigabytes, and that's mostly because, first of all, my phone is old, but my parents won't get me a new one because, well, I get that they have a lot of expenses like insurance and shit they have to pay for, but I need this fucking phone for school. And if I can pay for a new computer with my 529 or college investment education thing, then I should be able to pay for a phone. But no, apparently it's not allowed. So I'm gonna have to ask for it for fucking Christmas. So I have to put up with this for a while. In addition, it didn't help matters that my parents were lazy, and since I needed to go somewhere, they basically forced me to download the fucking Uber app, which takes up like 500 megabytes simply because of the updates and shit. But that's a different story. So I'm going to get my license soon. I've been wanting to get it early, but I kind of put it off. So I'm going to get it in December because I need to take a behind the wheel test to get my license. And you can make like 2 or something mistakes. So that means the fact that I can't park worth a damn is fine. But I need to practice my lane changes, and my mom freaked out because the fucking mirrors are at the objects are further away than possible, and she was yelling at me thinking I was gonna hit a car, but I fucking didn't. Fucking bitch. I confronted my mom about being a shitty person and always, complaining about everything and, yelling at me for stupid retarded shit. And she said she would change. Less than 2 days later, she broke it, so I always knew I couldn't count on my parents. But here's our book review, Virus Hunters. Another epidemiology book. If you didn't know this, I'm going to become an epidemiologist, work for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, and fight the most deadly diseases in the world. You will probably never know my name, yet I will put my life on the line for you. I'll be the guy who gets dispatched with the Ebola suit. Anywho, this is a classic in the field. If we look in the front, we can see that it's more than 50 years old. And this book is getting very fucking hard to find. 1960. Yeah. On Amazon, I paid $20 for it and $5 shipping. It might no longer be in print, but that's an insane price. And there was only one fucking copy available, which is fucking rare. Because even though my tastes are eccentric, there's normally like 20 suppliers to choose from. There's only one. So my guess is this book is probably worth $250 now, at least. But it's interesting because it's like looking at a time capsule. What did they know in 1960 and what did they not know? And it's well worth reading simply because of that alone. For example, they believed viruses were alive. now the scientific consensus is maybe they're alive, maybe not. Um, they believed they'd found the cause of the common cold and that they had a vaccine for it, um, which which they didn't. It was a rhinovirus, which it turns, and the vaccine seemed to work. The only problem is that's not what causes a common cold, so it's the wrong tree. Um, they expressed optimism that diphtheria and several others would be either cured or eliminated in the U.S. Um, simply because of vaccines. It's interesting to read about it because diphtheria is no longer a thing in the U.S. Um, at least according to my knowledge, and polio is not only controlled in the U.S., it's been on the verge of worldwide eradication for a while. It'll be only the second human disease to do so after smallpox. According to some insane idiots or misinformed people, smallpox is still a fucking around, but it's not. It's been cured. It no longer exists except in labs since 1980. Anywho, polio only exists as of now in, I believe, Nigeria, particularly the Northeast. Muslim clerics have been saying that American polio vaccines can get Muslim girls pregnant or sterilize them, shit like that, scaremongering. And it's caused diseases to keep reemerging. And I believe Pakistan or Afghanistan, but it seems to be getting under control pretty quickly. It's just the last inch is always the fucking hardest. There's a reason why eliminating 99% is easy. And now there's only like 20 cases a year. Another disease that'll probably be eliminated soon is draculosis, which is also known as guinea worm disease, which is a parasite. It causes very painful conditions where a fucking worm pops out of your body. And fortunately, a small bit of anti-wormicide in the wells can prevent it, but in poor countries they didn't have that. Now it only exists in South Sudan and cases are at 20, probably be cured soon. But it's also, they expressed optimism that every new disease would get a treatment. And yeah, we're still optimistic about diseases, and we've come pretty far in treating them. It's just, we've cured and eliminated some, but upper respiratory infection or URIs for cause of death in the US and worldwide are still about 2 mil, easily 2 mil, easily over a million in the US alone, and millions more worldwide. And those are things like the flu and shit like that, pneumonia, and viral and bacteria. And we've come pretty far in treating viral and bacteria illnesses. Um, but we keep getting new problems. According to my research, there are only 200 diseases that infect humans. There's millions of diseases that affect animals and stuff. So most of them haven't crossed to humans, but that doesn't mean they couldn't. Some of them could. And in addition, protozoas, which are single-celled things that cause stuff like certain kinds of dysentery, amoebas, and what was recently discovered, a prion, can cause. It's basically a protein. It's in the brain of literally every fucking person on the planet. But in certain instances, for some reason, it can turn infectious and cause severe symptoms. Basically, it's like going through Alzheimer's, but way faster, way more deadly, and at a way younger age. Imagine being 25 and losing your ability to speak in 6 months, losing your ability to walk straight, and then toward the end, seizures, brain damage, and then it takes a year to kill you. That's human mad cow disease, or Creutzfeldt-Jakobsen disease. Some of it is genetic, which is not mad cow related, but at least one or multiple strains are mad cow related, and the fact it was only discovered in 1999 as a new type of organism capable of causing a pathogen means we haven't exactly a treatment other than either don't eat meat or don't eat cheap meat, one of the two, or avoid cow meat altogether. But there is some evidence that prion diseases can occur in other animals, and we don't know if that can jump to humans either. So, but I have great hope that we will be able to treat things in the future. But the idea that it's just, for all this hope, we've made progress. Yeah, we have. But for every step forward, we have a new disease, a new problem. So it's like for every step forward, we take 2 steps backwards. Our flu vaccines are not entirely ineffective, but in a good year, you get 30% coverage, which isn't that good. We need a universal flu vaccine, and we probably need it soon, because a flu pandemic is probably a certainty. The problem is we can't manufacture a vaccine in advance, because if we guess wrong, the entire flu vaccine that year is unhelpful, and there's almost no cross-reactivity between one flu strain and the other, so you can't do that, so it's useless there. So, and after 9/11, we invested in more vaccination factories by subsidizing them because we were afraid of a bioterror attack. Because FYI, they lose money every time they make a vaccine because they're so damn cheap. And if you look at what happens when you don't take it, this Oregon family had a kid. They were Amish, no, Jehovah's Witness, and they had 12 kids, and couldn't fucking afford it, so they were on Medicaid, which is, if you're not from the U.S., it's basically Medicare, which is subsidized healthcare for the elderly in the U.S., but for poor and disabled people. All their kids had that insurance, and he stepped on a rusty nail in a barnyard, and they said, get this Tdap vaccine. It'll cost less than $500, and I highly recommend it, and you won't pay a cent of it. They chose not to. The kid got lockjaw and had to have expensive treatment to keep him alive in extreme pain. And the end fucking result was it cost the taxpayer $2.5 million. People who don't vaccinate their kids should be thrown in prison for life. And there should be a policy where if you get government assistance, you should be required to follow doctor recommendations on this shit. But that's a different point. So, and technically, it was the first case of tetanus in decades because everyone fucking vaccinates after stepping on a rusty nail. But, fucking dumbass religious faggots. Anywho, so the problem is that most of this extra vaccine capacity, these new factories, the ability to manufacture 200 million more doses, were taken up. You can't retool a vaccination factory to produce completely different vaccines. It's hard enough to, switch it over from making one type of vaccine to another one of a similar type. But the end result is that most of this has been taken up, producing standard vaccines and vaccines for USAID, which is the U.S. charity or the U.S. federal government agency that has $70 billion a year to give vaccines and other projects to third world countries. And so the end result is that there's little left over for an emergency, so it'll take 12 months to get any. But the universal flu vaccine, despite promise, is a long time in the making. In addition, HIV is a problem. Drug-resistant bacteria is a problem. There's emerging diseases are a problem. We should probably require every single person who ever dies be autopsied, simply because how many unknown diseases, how many people die of symptoms so vague that they just write flu on it and don't bother autopsying? And autopsying everyone could serve as an early warning system to determine if, a new infectious illness is spreading, worldwide, anywhere. We could pay for it with a small tax added on to burial costs. And also, it would give medical experience to medical students, who need to do it. Even in the most obvious case, just because someone, died of a fucking car accident doesn't mean that they don't have an unknown illness in them. My guess is it would probably cost, I don't know, less than 10% in terms of tax added to it at the end. Autopsies are expensive, but, it could be done. And there's one thing everyone wants, either a cancer cure or a vaccine for HIV. The problem is with HIV, it mutates very, very fucking rapidly. We already know of multiple strains of it, and each person who gets it, the disease will mutate substantially. So it's hard to determine. So everyone's HIV is different, and that's a problem. This one guy deliberately injected a woman with HIV to kill her for some reason, and they were able to use genetic sequencing to determine it was similar to someone else, but it had already mutated substantially. So it doesn't do much good to make a vaccine if it's immediately going to mutate. And it's not that efforts haven't been made. Based on my research, there have been several vaccine attempts, probably a dozen or up to 20. It's just none of them have had any promise. Let's just say that none of them have worked better than a placebo or close to a placebo. So it's hard to tell if, for example, let's say a placebo will yield a 25% cure rate. If you get a vaccine that